Hey there, it's Anna. Welcome to the garden. So today I have a project that really needs to get done. It's pretty warm out. We are having a little bit of like a late summer heat up. It's in the 90s Fahrenheit today, but this project will not wait. And that is planting out the tomato suckers that I rooted for like fall tomatoes. I'll admit that I kind of let these go longer than maybe I should have, but they've started to put on a lot of roots. They don't look particularly healthy. I'll admit they don't look great, but I'm gonna give it a try. There's two ways to get your tomato suckers started. So if you have consistent enough water and wet enough soil, you can cut off a tomato sucker and just stick it straight in the ground, and often I have had them root and grow. Or you can take it and you can put it in water, which is what I did. I just had a bucket here and I just stuck these tomato suckers in there, and they've rooted really nicely. I mean, you can see they have big root systems on them. So I'm going to plant them out today. I'll show you where I'm planting them. I may also take a couple other suckers and see if I can get them rooted that other way by just sticking them straight in the ground. This is an experiment. I have to admit, I'm not super hopeful about them just because they don't look really great. But I've had really good success with tomato suckers in the past, and I would love to get like a little second growth of tomatoes. I do have a few tomato plants. If you saw my last garden tour, like actually you can see part of it right here. These were tomatoes that I planted in July, and they've gotten huge and beautiful, and they're setting fruit. And so I know I'm going to get some fall tomatoes. I don't think I'm going to have time on these suckers, honestly, but we're going to give it a go. I'm going to take a couple more cuttings from my Juliet tomatoes today and see if I can get those to just like root in the ground, because the Juliet tomatoes put off tomatoes a lot faster than all the other ones, and these were some like the slicers. I just basically took cuttings, like when I pulled out my tomato plants, I just took cuttings off of them so that I could try to root some more suckers. It's kind of my concept, like if they're getting old and it's time for them to come out, maybe we can get them to have some babies. Let's see. This is where the tomatoes are going. As you can see, I took down all the cucumbers and all the trellising materials, which is totally fine. I will come back in and tie those tomatoes up if they start really growing. But basically, oh, see the big earthworm? I'm just gonna dig like a little trench here. And I'm gonna put the tomatoes all in it and then let them grow. Just plant them right in. Here is the thing about fall tomatoes. You do have to get them going early enough. And that is a mistake that I have made many times. Let me get these planted and I'll talk about it more. Okay, there they are. Now I am going to water those in and stay very conscientious about watering. As you can see, they just rooted beautifully in just water, but now once they're in the ground, they need to still continue to have tons and tons of water, or else they're gonna just be in trouble because they are such young plants still, and they're kind of vulnerable. And here's a couple more suckers. Tomato plant. They come out here at the like little notches between stems. I'm gonna take this sucker. Usually I would do this with pruners, but I just forgot mine. I'm gonna add this guy in here too. Yes, I am planting these tomatoes super close. One, because I don't really have a ton of room, and two, because I'm not really super hopeful that these are actually gonna grow well. But you can just do this. So you can just stick your tomato in there and then cover it like the tomato stem. You can just stick it in there and in the ground, and then you can just cover it back up with soil, mulch, whatever you got, and let it grow. And then just water and water and water. I'm going to turn on my sprinkler system out here, which will directly water them, and then I'll also water them in with the hose, just to really make sure they're getting watered. We actually are supposed to get thunderstorms this afternoon, which will be perfect because that'll also give them a really good dose of water. And as I said, yeah, just everyday watering. I'm pretty much doing everyday watering for my whole garden because it's just so hot out that everything is drying out really fast. So here is the thing with growing tomatoes for the fall garden. I think it's a really nice idea because a lot of tomatoes, at least in my climate, get sick and die in the summer, and it's too hot for them. They have trouble producing fruit when it's over 90 degrees. So for me, that's like July, end of July, early August. And so starting another succession of tomatoes so that you have tomatoes in the fall is a great idea. Fall being, you know, September, October. The problem is you do have to start them early enough. And this is a mistake that I have definitely made. It's one that I'm making probably with those tomato suckers, but we'll see. The plants that I started in July and I bought as little, you know, little plants, they weren't that small, but they were little plants. They're getting huge, covered in fruit, as I was saying, doing fabulously. If you're not able, you know, to get, I'd say your seeds started, you know, like around June or something like that, at least for me, zone 7A, Virginia, I'm probably not going to get tomatoes. It's just sort of how it works. I did start a couple years back. I wanted to get some fall tomatoes. I was like, wanted tomatoes for Halloween. I started those, I think, like in the middle of July. I started the seeds, maybe the end of June. But either way, they didn't quite get there. They couldn't make it in time. And so it's really something you want to look at, like look at those seed packets, look at the days to maturity, really think about that, because yeah, otherwise, you know, you put all this work into growing something and then nothing happens. For me, a lot of this experiment with the tomato suckers is just to see how they do growing along that fence line. Of course, you know, maybe they may not be as healthy as like a brand new fresh tomato plant, but I really want to grow my tomatoes next year along that fence line. And so I'm using this opportunity as more of just like a kind of experiment to see if I can even just grow tomatoes in that area, and kind of testing out in my plans for next year, which is another thing that you can totally do. I mean, if you have ideas of where you want to grow things, like I'd love to try things out, because I have found, especially in this little space with the kind of unusual light situation that we have here, you know, there's certain areas where some things grow great, and there's certain areas where some other things grow great, and vice versa, and they don't grow well, you know, in those other areas. And so it's just kind of like nice to start learning. Like I really learned on this arch trellis that I can grow tomatoes in that area. They get a little bit of shade, but they do wonderfully, and they're so happy. And I think it's almost helping them because they're not getting quite as hot in the middle of the day. And that's what I'm hoping for that fence line, because that fence line gets a big block of morning sun, a really nice intense chunk of morning sun, and then it kind of gets shaded by the fence in the afternoon. And so we're gonna see if that will work for the tomatoes. Obviously they'll grow up to the top of the fence, and then they'll get full sun. So that's the plan. Anyways, I just wanted to kind of share with you, because I started that project and I wanted to kind of share with you where we are with it, and maybe you can kind of learn from my mistakes, and something to think about as you're planning, you know, next year if you want to do fall tomatoes or something. Anyways, have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.